Why are African countries not trading among themselves? Thank you for tuning in today. We're talking about Africa. Africa is the place where I was born. I was born in Cameroon. I don't want to even go to my own country because it is a disaster, total disaster. Ever since I was born, Cameroon has known only one president, President Papia, and he's been in power for over 42 years. He became president in November of 1982. If at that time, who was president of the United States? Ronald Reagan. So from 1982 to today, and he's planning to run for re-election. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what is going on in my country, but I don't want to go to my country right now because it is a total chaos. My country is just a reflection of what is happening to some other African country where a lot of leaders are clinging on to power and they don't want to let go. They don't want to pass the baton onto the next generation. They just feel like, oh, I'm going to enrich myself, enrich my family, and screw the people. Because if you look at what is going on in most African countries right now, you're going to ask yourself, are these leaders for the people or for themselves? But what I want to talk about today, the African Free Trade Agreement. They brought up the idea in 2018 and then it was signed in 2022. But it has been really slow. The implementation has been really slow. That's how things in Africa always goes. You're going to hear a good idea and the moment everybody's like celebrating, oh yeah, it is a good idea, boom, it just goes under the radar. You start asking, what's going on? Like a lot of countries don't want to open their markets because they don't want to compete. But the same countries would rather want trade with Europe than trade with their fellow African country. For example, I just heard recently that the president of South Africa, after some disagreement with Donald Trump, had to fly to Europe to find new trading partners. And I was disappointed. You think Europe is going to be a better partner to work with, and you ignore or neglect all your other fellow African countries or fellow African brothers to go trade with the European. I don't know how that's going to work out with South Africa, but it is time for us as Africans to see the need to open up to one another. If you take a look at Africa as a whole and you look at the rest of the world, just take a look at Europe, Asia, North America, South America. In terms of land mass, Africa is the second largest continent in the world. In terms of population, I still believe the second largest in the world. But when you take a look at GDP, Africa is bottom of the chart. How is that possible? A lot of us will be bragging like, oh, we have the youthful population. But what are we doing with that? And if we are not creating opportunities for those youths to thrive in, what do we expect? Do we expect to just become one of the greatest continents in the world? We have to unite. There's unity, there's strength in our unity. Once we're united, we can now put forward some things like some growth agenda. African Union needs some major reforms. It's going to take a lot to do that because we cannot let presidents come and sit there and negotiate deals that they don't really understand or talk about things they don't really know what they're talking about. And then at the end of the day, they leave and nothing's implemented. Let's take a look at what is happening in the European Union where they have parliamentarians, European parliamentarians, where they're representing each country and that's their job to take care of the country's interests and see how they can move forward. It's not something that the head of states got to come sit there once a year or once. And tell me the strongest country in Africa when it comes to passport. Just take, for example, you take a Nigerian passport and you go to some European country or something. They're going to inspect you. They're going to toast you left and right just to make sure that you're good. No respect. But if you take an American passport and you put it forward, it does not take time and your passport is given back to you. the respect. But Africans, they don't respect us. And what do? We just sit down, fold our hands, and we have to change all this. It's not good. Me talking as an African, I'm not happy with what is going on in our country. And our leaders got to take accountability and try to see how we can move forward towards making an Africa growth agenda. I was looking at what was happening in Kenya before President Ruto became president. I was like, oh yeah, some of the things he was saying was kind of good. I'm like, yeah, maybe this is a guy that's going to actually bring that change to the continent. And when he became president, the first week, first month, second month, it was kind of like the good vibes. But now I'm not even hearing anything about Ruto. The only thing I'm hearing now is about people protesting. They don't like his policies, trying to increase taxes and stuff, so on and so forth. And I'm just like, wow, what is going on? What is going on? Who is going to be that driving force to unite Africa? We really need that right now, especially what is going on in the world. And they're saying, oh, the new world order. Africa should not be a dumping ground. We have the talent. We have the resources. So what is stopping us? Because we have the highest amount of natural resources on earth. We don't add value to those resources. We ship those resources at their raw state or raw form to your European countries or North America or South America or whatever country we ship it to. And then they go to those countries and they add value to those resources. And now it becomes finished products. And then they sell it to us at a more higher rate. So we're losing a lot of money in the process. So why are we not thinking of adding value to the stuff? Like you see what is going on in Congo, it's a tragedy. And you're looking at other African countries and you're saying to yourself, like, what is going on? Why is the African Union not decisive in that issue? Okay, we saw South Africa and some other countries send troops to Congo. And now they're pulling out. What is going on there? Some people are saying Rwanda-backed rebel group. So if Rwanda is backing that, why are we not bringing Rwanda to the table and saying, hey, this got to end? African Union is just a toothless bulldog. I see there's some other countries who are stepping up to try to see how they can find peace. Like this week, I heard about Angola trying to bring all the parties to a negotiating table where they can talk. And why all that is going on, the president of Congo, but he was saying that he don't want to negotiate with the rebel group. At the same time that he's trying to find a deal similar to what the United States was negotiating with Ukraine, the minerals deal, if you know what that is. So America is trying to sign a deal with Ukraine to protect its interests in that country based on the money that Joe Biden gave to Ukraine. I don't want to go to exact figures because sometimes you hear this amount, the next time you hear this other amount, and Donald Trump want to bring back America's dollars back to the country because he claims that the Europeans gave Ukraine money in the form of a loan. So they're going to get their money back. But the other U.S. president gave Ukraine a lot of money without no guarantee of getting the money back. So they're trying to sign a mineral deal that's going to keep the United States in Ukraine taking all those good minerals that are needed in this industry, these future industries. And the president of Congo is trying to find a similar deal with the EU or the United States. That is a disaster. Like you see, all these guys come to power and they're selling the country without even knowing the consequence. After all, what is going to happen? You're going to sign a 100-year lease deal, give them the resource, they dig it and go out. How does your country get better? By doing all these things. Some of these leaders got to Start thinking, because it is common sense. I don't know whether they have common sense, and when they get into power, the common sense just disappear or vanish. We have to start taking accountabilities because it's getting out of hand. This whole thing is just getting out of hand. We have to be respected. But how are you going to be respected if you don't put your house in order? The rest of the world see you and say, "Oh, look at them," and they're laughing at us. They don't even respect us. And our leaders, instead of them sit down and say, "Hey, what is going on over here? What can we do to reshape the way we do things?" There's a lot of barriers, a lot of restrictions. Let's ease the movement of goods and services. Intra-Africa trade. Let's boost that number up. Let's make trading between ourselves sustainable. Because right now it is not. Commerce in Africa is not at a level where it should be. Ever since I was born, I always hear Africa, the sleeping continent. Africa, the continent with potential. And I've been hearing that till today. Potential, potential, potential. Why are we not living up to the potential? I see there are a lot of countries who are taking steps towards getting to another level. Like if you see, all they say the top 10 fastest growing economies are in Africa. A lot of fastest growing economies in Africa. But yeah, most of those growths that that are studied, are they sustainable? Are they really sustainable? We have to take a look at what is going on. Don't sit down and just assume that, oh, we have to trade within ourselves. It is really important. And the geopolitics, we as Africans have to believe that we have the strength and abilities, skill set, capabilities to improve our continent. We don't need to have this mindset that, oh, since America is pulling out or taking out the aid, we have to wait for China to step in, for Russia to step in, for the EU to step in. So, meaning we cannot step up, we cannot take accountability that, oh yeah, we have been relying on this aid for too long. How can we as a continent or as a people take bold step towards our future, towards making sure that our children's children or children are going to live in a better Africa? Why are we not doing that? A lot of countries now, those big powers like Russia, China, and United States or the EU now, are always trying to use Africa for politics, influence. Like, oh, this is this thing. I have influence over West Africa, for West Central Africa, West Africa. We have to stand up as Africa and improve our continent. You can't even move from a city in Africa to a village and say, oh, the roads are magnificent. You're going to drive in some of the worst roads ever. Even roads, our leaders are not giving their citizens roads. We need to improve, guys. And we need to take responsibility. It's so sad. It's so sad that before the election, in some countries, you already know who is going to win. Before the election, you already know who's going to win. It's a sad reality, but that's what has been happening in my country. Before the election, we already know who's going to win. There's really, even you just voting is just a form, like, come on, guys. People are just going to vote even though they know that their vote does not really count. Is that how society is supposed to operate, guys? That's not fair. Our leaders, please take accountability. But the thing is, sometimes the leaders think what they're doing is actually good because the people are just sitting and folding their hands and they're not saying anything. At most, our people are instead entertained with gossip and some other distraction than something that's going to actually better the country because they are used to where the country is. And that's not a good sign. We as a people, we elected, quote unquote, elected our leaders. So they have to report to us. What have you done for the last 4 years, 5 years, 7 years? What have you done? I think it's time for change. And the youths got to step up. But how will you step up when you believe that there's a lot of things that have to change in Africa? The AU is one. The African Union have to be reformed. It needs major reforms. I don't know if people agree with me, but it needs major reforms. It is just an organization. But what are they doing? Like, see what is happening in Africa right now. A lot of conflicts left and right. But they're not doing anything to make change. They're going to hold a conference. Everybody come sit down and nothing's agreed. Even if something's agreed upon, take a look at that thing in 2 weeks, 1 month. What happens? It goes under the radar and everything just dies like that. And people go back to their day-to-day life or activities. That's not good. We have to improve, guys. We have the population, we have the youth, we have the land mass. Why did you decide to become president? To enrich your family? Or just for the name? Or to, I have power now? Really? That's not a good thing for us as a continent. And you see a lot of people even laugh and say, oh, Africa is a country. Africa is not a country. It's a continent led by people who know nothing about leadership. Just sit there and sleep. They sleep. You see some of them go to, they have a conference, and if you take a closer look at some of the leaders, they're sleeping. And then when they finish, they sign deals. They don't even know what the hell they signed. They don't even know. Some of them don't know. I'm not saying all African leaders are like that. There's some good leaders in Africa. I understand that. I understand. But 80%, you can tell me that. 80%, they don't really know what they're doing. And we can't continue folding our hands and letting those people just do whatever they're doing. Africans are supposed to be free. Travel from one African country to another. If you're leaving Ghana to Togo, you travel smoothly. Leaving Nigeria to Cameroon, you travel smoothly. You're leaving Congo to South Africa, you travel smoothly. You don't need all these restrictions, visas, rejections. Like even Dangote, the richest person in Africa, or the richest black person per se, said the same thing. Even him needs visa to travel to other African countries. I don't understand. And his fellow European don't need any visa. He can travel to any African country. Is that the way that we're supposed to be doing things? That's not good. It's not. But one person cannot bring change. It takes everybody to come together to bring some major or drastic changes. Africans, we got to stop talking and start taking action to improve. We need to improve. We need it. We have to. We have to. People are saying, oh, America is taking away aid. They're not really thinking about Africa. We're going to focus on China. We're going to focus on the European Union. You forget to understand that most of this continent or countries like European Union, Europe is a continent and China is a country. So most of, let's just say, for example, China. China is not going to come to Africa without thinking about its interests in Africa. It's not thinking about Africa's interests. Africa should be the one stepping up and thinking about its own interests, the interests of the people. You don't sit down and just do things without consequences. Just believe there's no consequence. Selling our future. Selling our future. With no remorse. With no remorse. All these African countries got to be held accountable. Starting from my own country, Cameroon. How can one president rule us for over 42 years? That's what I'm still asking myself, and I don't understand it. Over 42 years, one president. And he was 7 years as a prime minister. Just imagine. 7 years as a prime minister, 42 years as president. That is so sad. So sad. Since independence, my country got independence in 1960. Till today, my country has had only 2 presidents. 2. Since 1960. Can you imagine? It's a disgrace and a disaster. At least other countries like Nigeria even change presidents before there is no change. We even want to see that. I mean, it would be a good thing to see a president in Cameroon every 4 or 5 years like Nigeria. It would be good. At least we're seeing some changes. Some changes, but no change. If you understand what I'm saying. Africa really needs to step up, guys. Now, I'm going to make sure that at least I talk about Africa because we need improvement. We cannot sit down and fold our hands and watch these guys do what they do. If Trump is taking away aid, good. Think about Africa. Think about the huge potential that the continent possesses. Trading within themselves. That's good. If we're trading if we opened our markets for other African countries, let's just say for example Cameroon, open their markets for other African countries. Huge potential. But the thing is, those countries don't want to compete. Competition is healthy because it's going to bring the best out of everybody. Because you don't want to be left behind. But if you're so lazy to think that you cannot compete, and then I don't understand. We have to compete. It got to be healthy competition. Cameroon want to compete to be the best. Nigeria want to compete to be the best. Ghana want to compete to be the best. South Africa want to compete to be the best. Let's compete. Open the market. Let's compete. Don't sit down and say you want to forge your hand and protect home industry without competing. We need competition. We've been doing this for over 60 to 70 years now. Where has it led us? We're still folding our hands, hoping that we're going to be developed one day. It's not time to hope anymore. It's time to take actions. It's time to believe. It's time to focus. It's time to strive. It's time to move forward. It's time to believe again. In Africa, in a continent that is filled with a lot of natural resources, riches beyond imagination. People, love, food, strength, unity. That's the Africa that we need to believe in. The Africa that believes in its people, that love its people, that empowers its people. That's the Africa we need right now. We don't need an Africa that is a sleeping giant. No, we need an Africa that is a giant. We can't keep living like this no more. It is not sustainable. We have to win. We have to think about our people. We have to let them grow. Let them innovate. Let them compete and make our continent the best that it has ever been. Because Africa is the present. Let's stop saying this thing that Africa is the future. Africa is the present and the future. That should be our theme. Let's forget about only saying future, but say present because it's necessary and it's important. Thank you very much and see you in the next episode because we're going to continue doing this. I was talking about Africa. Africa needs change. I love you guys and let's start the change today.